Hey, welcome to a new video. Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world and is located in the Himalayas on the border between Nepal and Tibet, China. The mountain is an incredible 29,000 feet or 8,848 meters high, and every year thousands of climbers try to reach the top. Mysteries and unexplained events have also happened on Mount Everest. Are you new to this channel? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And before we start, also like the video. In 2016, scientists made an incredible discovery near Cape Irizar off the southern coast of Antarctica. They stumbled upon an abandoned colony of prehistoric Adelie penguins, which hadn't been seen in that part of the icy landscape for over a century. Despite this fact, they found nesting sites with mummified remains, bones, and even penguin droppings. It was almost as if the colony had been recently abandoned. A new study conducted by researcher Steve Emsley sheds light on this mystery. It turns out that the penguin remains may have been buried under the ice for hundreds or even thousands of years. Recent meltwater, however, had exposed the colony again. By dating the mummified remains, they discovered that the penguins had inhabited Cape Irizar 3 times in the past 5,000 years. Each time, they were eventually driven out by rising sea levels, approximately 800 years ago. Mount Everest and the surrounding Himalayan region have undergone major changes over geological time. You think there might be only ice and snow to be found, but no. Fossils have also been found on the mountain that could possibly prove the scenario that the story of Noah and the Great Flood actually happened. The fossils were from marine animals, and NASA also confirmed that there was limestone. That means that there were fish on the top of the mountain somewhere in distant history. But the question is, what were these fish doing on the summit in ancient times? So, the book of Genesis might have been correct, when it said that the whole world was covered with water. The existence of sea fossils from the ocean, as NASA says, fuels theories that India was part of an ancient supercontinent called Gondwanaland that existed more than 150 million years ago. During the Ice Age, Siberia was far from the desolate land it is today. It was home to various mammoths, tundra wolves, bears, woolly rhinoceros, bison, and cave lions. Cave lions were larger relatives of today's African lions. In the frozen depths of the Siberian Arctic region, a golden-furred lion cub was discovered, covered in mud but otherwise well preserved. Despite the 28,000 years that have passed since the cub's death, its teeth, skin, soft tissues, and organs have mummified and remained fully intact. The cub was named Sparta, or the Siberian Simba. Sparta was one of the 2 young cave lions found by mammoth tusk hunters on the far east of Russia in 2017 and 2018. Initially, it was thought that the 2 cubs were siblings, as they were discovered only 49 feet or 15 meters apart. However, recent research revealed that they differed in age by about 15,000 years. The second cub, known as Boris, is approximately 43,448 years old. UFOs have been sighted almost everywhere in the world. But what about Mount Everest? To be honest, no one will probably believe you if you say you saw a UFO up there, and it would probably be dismissed as a hallucination under the influence of altitude. But it could also be the perfect place to keep aliens hidden, because not many people visit there. In 2018, a specific UFO incident occurred and one of the climbers even managed to photograph the object. Some people said it might have been a drone or a helicopter, but the man who took the photo was convinced it was a UFO. Conspiracy theorists have reminded people that there has long been a rumor of a secret underground base in the area. Even released CIA files have revealed 7 unidentified flying objects over Nepal, India, and Bhutan in 1968. Incidentally, the UFOs were accompanied by a thundering sound and flashing lights. In 2014, remarkable discoveries were made in the permafrost of Siberian Yakutia, officially known as the Republic of Sakha. The remains of a woolly rhinoceros was discovered, and it was named Sasha. Sasha provides a glimpse into the Paleolithic era. Her thick curly fur is described as strawberry blonde, a striking color compared to the familiar slate gray of modern white rhinoceros in Africa. Analysis of Sasha's teeth indicates that she was about 7 months old when she died. Despite her young age, Sasha was as large as an 18-month-old modern rhinoceros. The prevailing theory about Sasha's death is that she drowned in a mud pit before her body froze in the permafrost. Scientists have also noted that her fur had molted, indicating seasonal fur shedding, a phenomenon that many animals undergo. Studying Sasha and her counterparts sheds light on the different climate of Yakutia, approximately 35,000 to 50,000 years ago. The region experienced colder and drier conditions without the climate zones we see today. The location where Sasha was found is now in the tundra zone, which didn't exist back then. The absence of tundra vegetation provided abundant grasses and grains, offering sufficient food for the mammoths and woolly rhinoceros that inhabited the area. The following story about a man named Justin Smith is a great mystery. On February 20th, 2015, he left his friend's house and decided to walk home. His father found him the next morning covered in a meter of snow. He was frozen solid, his eyes were wide open, and his face was purple. His father held him and cried, and later called his mother to tell her the tragic news. For them, there was no doubt that Justin had spent hours in the snow while the temperature fell extremely below zero. He was no longer breathing, nor did he have a pulse, but they decided to take him to the hospital as soon as possible. The doctors could not even determine a proper body temperature. But one doctor saw something the others did not. When your body cools at the right rate, your metabolism slows down at a rate that protects you from exposure. They began administering chest compressions and hooked him up to a machine to warm and oxygenate his blood. A month later, Justin was back on his feet. An incredible story, isn't it? Meet Dogor, an ancient pup discovered in the Siberian permafrost, whose name means friend in the Yakut language. Genetic tests have revealed that Dogor doesn't belong to the wolf or dog species, suggesting that he could be a mysterious ancestor shared by both groups. The university in Yakutsk reports that parts of Dogor remains have been remarkably well preserved, including his head, nose, whiskers, eyelashes, and mouth. Additionally, the pup still had his milk teeth when he died, indicating that he was only 2 months old at the time. The level of preservation is so exceptional that scientists successfully determined the sequence of genes in Dogor's DNA using a rib bone fragment. This analysis revealed that Dogor was male. The fact that Dogor defies easy classification suggests that he may belong to a population that predates both wolves and dogs, an evolutionary link between the two. Dogor's presence is also particularly significant because he comes from a crucial period in the evolution of dogs. During this time, wolf species were declining, while early dogs began to emerge. In 2007, a Siberian reindeer herder named Yuri Kuti met another mammoth calf named Lyuba. Lyuba briefly disappeared, but when she reappeared, her right ear and tail were missing, likely chewed off by dogs. What happened is that after her death, Lyuba was preserved by lactic acid produced by bacteria that entered her body. This preserved her soft tissues almost perfectly, making it hard to believe that she's about 42,000 years old. But there's another woolly mammoth discovered named Yuka. Yuka lived approximately 39,000 years ago during the last ice age. Her remarkably well-preserved remains were found in the Siberian permafrost in 2010, containing intact DNA, skin, muscle tissue, and even hair. Yuka's discovery has provided valuable insights into the genetics and biology of this extinct species, and sparked discussions about the possibility of cloning woolly mammoths. The Charkov mammoth is another prehistoric animal found in Siberia. This mammoth is estimated to be around 20,000 years old, and lived some 34,000 to 12,000 years ago, reaching a respectable age of 47 years. Scientists have found that mammoths left the Taimyr region in search of food, or to escape flooding during various periods. You probably heard several stories about Bigfoot and the Yeti, but did you know that some of the very first people who planned routes to the summit of Mount Everest reported seeing Yeti footprints in the snow? They've even taken photographs as proof of their finds. In 1951, Englishmen Eric Shipton and Dr. Michael Ward tried to find a path to the summit from Nepal and succeeded in reaching their goal. But before they did, they found a trail of the largest and most unusual footprints, at an altitude of about 16,500 feet, or 5,000 meters. They used a boot, a backpack, and an ice pick to demonstrate the colossal size. Realizing that they were sharing the mountain with something inexplicable, they followed the footprints for several miles or kilometers before losing the trail. Do you believe the Yeti exists? Let's go back in time, about 214 million years ago, when the Earth looked very different. In what is now Greenland, a dinosaur named Issy Sanek roamed. This cool dino walked on 2 legs, had a long neck, and was actually an ancestor of sauropods, the largest land animals to ever exist. The name Issy Sanek pays tribute to the Inuit language of Greenland, and means cold bone. Initially, scientists thought one of these dinosaurs was a Plateosaurus, a well-known long-necked dino that lived in Europe during the Triassic period. But when they discovered 2 well-preserved skulls of Issy Sanek during an excavation in East Greenland in 1994, they knew they had something very special on their hands. These herbivorous dinos lived approximately 214 million years ago, during the late Triassic period. During that time, the supercontinent Pangaea began to break apart, giving rise to the Atlantic Ocean. The climate changed, allowing the first herbivorous dinos to migrate to Europe and other places. The 2 skulls belonged to a young and nearly adult Issy Sanek and resembled dinos from Brazil. Together with the Plateosaurs from Germany, they form a group called Plateosaurids. These relatively agile dinos walked on 2 legs and could grow up to 33 feet or 10 meters long. Make no mistake, Mount Everest is very dangerous, but it's also called a graveyard these days because of the unexplained events that have happened there. At this altitude, you can't just call someone for help. Even the first man that climbed Mount Everest fell prey to this phenomenon. Meet Reinhold Messner, the first person to climb the mountain without oxygen in 1978 and 1980. During that second trek, he swore he felt an extra presence with him. and he attributed it to the spirits of fallen British climbers. In 1933, during Frank Smith's attempt to conquer the climb, he felt a presence with him so strong that he tried to share his lunch with them. But the story gets even creepier. Ever heard of the third man factor? It refers to the feeling that you get when there's an extra, unseen third person with you. Several climbers reported that when they were in distress, they got visions of loved ones, both living and deceased. A reindeer herder from the remote wilderness of East Siberia embarked on an adventure to an island in the frigid Arctic region. There, protruding from the permafrost, he discovered nearly perfect preserved remains of a brown bear frozen in time for 3,500 years. The Siberian cold has not only preserved the bear's soft tissue, but also parts of its last meal, bird feathers and plants. A team of courageous scientists in Siberia embarked on a fascinating mission to study this bear. Carefully, they cut through its hide to access its brain, internal organs, and other tissues. This opened the door to a wide range of research, from cellular and microbiological analysis to genetic studies and even virological research. What's quite intriguing is that the genetic analysis revealed that the bear's mitochondrial DNA is not significantly different from that of modern bears. This bear would have been approximately 5 feet or 1.5 meters in size, but how exactly it ended up on the island still remains a mystery. Today, the island is separated from the mainland by a 31-mile or 50-kilometer wide strait, so there are several possible scenarios. Perhaps it walked across the ice, swam through the water, or the island was connected to the mainland at the time. What do you think? As a miner in the beautiful Yukon area of Canada, you are determined to find gold. Using a powerful water cannon, you're busy blasting away frozen mud, and then instead of gold, you stumble upon an almost perfectly preserved gray wolf pup, over 57,000 years old. This incredible wolf named Zur was discovered on the traditional land of the locals in their community. However, this isn't just any wolf mummy. Her body is approximately 100% intact, except for her eyes. Researchers determined that Zur was a female, and X-rays revealed that she was about 6 or 7 weeks old when she died. What's even more interesting is that the chemical analysis of her teeth indicated that she primarily consumed fish and other aquatic creatures, rather than large mammals like bison that you might expect. It appears that Zur was in good health, meaning she didn't die from starvation or a fatal encounter with other predators. Instead, it's believed that she was in her den when it collapsed, burying her in sandy soil and preserving her for thousands of years. What's really cool is that DNA analysis revealed that Zur belonged to an ancient wolf population, ancestors of gray wolves originating from Siberia, Russia, and Alaska. However, her population is no longer found in the Yukon area, suggesting that her species was eventually replaced by a different wolf population. If you had thought that there were only humans climbing Mount Everest, you would be wrong. As always, nature rules. And on this mountain, the animals have the upper hand. There's a surprising number of animals you can encounter during the treacherous trek. It's surprising because Mount Everest is so notoriously high and dangerous and so hard to breathe in that you wouldn't expect animals to be able to. There's a chance that a Himalayan black bear will explore your camping spot. They're rare, but they are aggressive when provoked. Himalayan black bears have been documented at an altitude of about 4,900 feet, or 1,500 meters. However, you can also encounter snow leopards at an altitude of nearly 16,500 feet, or 5,000 meters. They hunt in groups. You can also see the adorable Himalayan tahr or the Himalayan goral. And in addition, it's not uncommon to encounter red pandas either. In the beautiful Yukon, not far from Dawson City, a paleontologist made a fantastic discovery: a mummified Ice Age Arctic ground squirrel. It all began in 2018 when a gold prospector was working at Hester Creek. Normally, they find bones and fossils from the Ice Age there, but this find was different. At first glance, it might have appeared as nothing more than a dried-up clump of brown fur and skin. However, upon closer examination, the squirrel's features became clear: the tiny hands, claws, fluffy tail, and adorable ears. Arctic ground squirrels build nests known as middens, which are underground for their winter hibernation, and these ancient Ice Age nests are often preserved in the frozen ground. However, it's much rarer to find a complete squirrel. Squirrels are intriguing creatures for research because unlike mammoths or saber-toothed cats, they managed to survive in the Yukon even after the Ice Age. Who knows, perhaps this squirrel resembles the one we know from the Ice Age movies. In 1997, on the edge of Siberia, the Zeleny Yar necropolis was discovered, an extraordinary archaeological complex. It contained 2 frozen medieval mummies from a mysterious Arctic civilization. The mummies had been preserved naturally by Siberia's permafrost. The city where the mummies were discovered is one of the coldest parts of the world. On the coast of the Kara Sea in the Arctic Ocean, freezing temperatures reach an average of 2 degrees Celsius. Both mummies were covered with birch bark and canvas and coated from head to toe with copper. Scientists believe that the antimicrobial properties of the copper help preserve the bodies in such great shape. Unfortunately, little is known about this particular civilization, which lived in one of the most frigid regions of the world. A foal over 42,000 years ago was found preserved in the ice, with liquid blood still flowing through its veins. This amazing discovery is now the oldest sample of liquid blood ever found. This particular foal belongs to the Lena horse species, and was unearthed in an impressive crater in East Siberia. It's estimated to have been only 1 to 2 weeks old when it perished, but the cold embrace of the permafrost has worked a wonder by preserving this foal's skin, fur, and even the tiniest details with extraordinary precision. And here's the really cool part. The foal's bladder even contained well-preserved urine. Scientists have been working enthusiastically over the past few months to extract intact cells and high-quality DNA from the foal, in the hopes of potentially cloning it. The Mount Everest Rainbow Valley, as the name would have you suggest, actually has nothing to do with the rainbows or unicorns. It's the opposite of that. The Rainbow Valley is actually what's on the other side of the mountain. It lies below the northern ridge, and is exactly 26,247 feet or 8,000 meters high. At this spot, dozens of frozen climbers have fallen down. The ground is littered with tents, oxygen tanks, and all sorts of other objects. There's a specific reason why Mount Everest Rainbow Valley is such a hotspot for tragedies. Thin oxygen levels combined with strong winds, plus a narrow path. Everyone who dies here is pushed down along this route. Long ago, before humans entered the scene, ancient animals made incredible journeys to the Yukon, where they transformed the land into a paradise for giant creatures. Giant camels, sloths, lions, hyenas, and more roamed in this megafauna wonderland. When these animals eventually died, their bodies likely decayed and became one with the frozen ground. Scientists have even uncovered traces of an ancient hyena that reportedly reached North America through an ancient Ice Age land bridge between Russia and Alaska. This is a significant discovery because despite more than 50,000 bone remains of Ice Age animals in the Old Crow area, only two bones or teeth of this specific hyena have been found. The ancestors of these hyenas would have resembled modern hyenas, with long, powerful legs for running fast. They evolved over 5 million years ago in Europe or Asia, and their remains have been found all over the world, from Mongolia to Kansas, Mexico, and now the Yukon. The evidence of a few fossilized teeth from these ancient hyenas can now be admired at the Canadian Museum of Nature in Ottawa. Researchers believe that these teeth belong to a hyena that roamed the Arctic region between approximately 850,000 and 1.4 million years ago. George Mallory is a name familiar to every mountaineer and history buff. He's famous for being one of the first to brave the treacherous mountain during the very first 3 expeditions to Mount Everest. The first adventurers to stand at an altitude of 26,000 feet or 8,000 meters, Mallory was one of them, along with Andrew Irvin. In 1924, a companion, Noel Odell, reported seeing the two near the summit, and that was the last time George Mallory was seen alive. Fast forward to 1975, and Chinese climber Wang Hongbao found the frozen body, and it was at 26,755 feet, or 8,155 meters above sea level. One look at his belongings, and it became clear that this was George Mallory himself. No one knows exactly what happened to him, but it's believed that he had made it to the summit. A pair of sunglasses was found with him, along with details of his oxygen bottles, proving that he had used the equipment and had indeed made it. What happened next remains a mystery. Ichthyosaurs, which existed along dinosaurs on land and pterosaurs in the air, are believed to have gone extinct before their terrestrial and aerial counterparts did. In southern Chile, in the melting glaciers, lie dozens of nearly complete skeletons of prehistoric marine reptiles, aptly called fish dinosaurs due to their Greek name. These gigantic fast sea creatures swam during the dinosaur era, about 245 to 90 million years ago. The demise came from the catastrophic mudslides that preserved their remains in deep-sea sediments. Later, these fossils were uncovered as the glacier melted. This incredible area in Chile revealed 46 specimens of 4 different species of ichthyosaurs. Some of the specimens date back to the early Cretaceous, about 150 to 100 million years ago. These marine reptiles had torpedo-shaped bodies, vertical fins, and long snouts with sharp teeth. Much like modern dolphins, the largest skeleton measures over 16 feet or 5 meters in length. These fish dinosaurs likely hunted in underwater canyons near the coast, where they preyed on squid-like creatures and fish. David Blaine is an American illusionist, magician, and stuntman, whose greatest inspiration is Houdini. On November 27th of the year 2000, he decided to survive frozen in ice for 72 hours in the middle of Times Square, New York, while the public watched. He ended up spending 63 hours, 42 minutes, and 15 seconds in the block of ice, and he said it was one of the worst times in his life. In fact, not only was he cold, but he also suffered from a severe lack of sleep. The mental toll the challenge took on him was unparalleled. At one point, his mind was flooded with hallucinations. Eventually, he was hacked out and came out relatively healthy. In 1979, in the wilds of Alaska, gold miners were going about their mining activities when they suddenly stumbled upon a stunning discovery. While thawing frozen mud with a hydraulic mining hose, a 36-year-old bison emerged. This discovery of a genuine Ice Age bison, named Bison priscus, was identified by paleontologist Dale Guthrie. However, there was one major problem. The beast was trapped in the frozen ground, and massive ice ridges blocked the excavation. Even during warm summers, the bison remained frozen in the ground. Dale worried that if they didn't excavate the creature quickly, it would decompose once it thawed. So after removing it, they decided to freeze it immediately. The excavation continued until the entire bison body was freed from the muddy bank. But it didn't stop there. Washing it revealed bone fragments, hair, insects, wood, and plant remains. But the most striking was the blue color on the bison. The blue tint was caused by a mineral coating called vivianite, formed from phosphorus in the animal tissue, which reacted with the iron in the ground. When vivianite came into contact with air, it turned into a beautiful blue color, and thus the Ice Age bison earned the nickname Blue Babe. In 2008, some people were gold panning in Hunker Creek not far from the border with Alaska. When they suddenly made an incredible discovery, they found bones dating back to a staggering 75,000 to 125,000 years ago, from the Ice Age. Among these impressive bones, they found femurs that belonged to an extinct species of camel. But here's the interesting part. Genetic analysis revealed that these ancient camels, which evolved about 10 million years ago, were different from the modern camels we know today. The ancestors of our contemporary camels crossed the Beringa Land Bridge, which once connected Asia and North America, about 7 million years ago. However, these Ice Age camels in the Arctic region embarked on an exciting journey northward during a warmer period, around 100,000 years ago. Unfortunately, they went extinct about 10,000 years ago. But here's the cool part. While most camels migrated south all the way to Honduras, a few adventurous camels headed north to Alaska and the Yukon. When scientists reached the bottom of the ocean, or the deepest recorded part of it, the Challenger Deep, plastic was found there. And when the summit of Mount Everest was reached, microplastics were also found. The microplastics found consist of polyester, acrylic, nylon, and polypropylene, all used in outdoor gear. These microplastics were found at an altitude of 27,700 feet, or 8,442 meters. This is the highest point where we've ever found microplastics. But how could the microplastics have been found at this altitude? It's thought that they were carried away by the wind and probably due to the mountaineers who climb the mountain every year. Researchers have recently made a discovery of an almost perfectly preserved carcass of a female horned lark. This bird was tucked beneath the ground in an icy cave in northeastern Siberia. This carcass gives us a glimpse into the ancient ecosystems that once existed in this region. The story begins with fossil ivory hunters who were granted permission to dig tunnels near the village of Balaya Gora. They stumbled upon this bird that still looked quite well preserved. But when they used radiocarbon dating, they discovered that this bird was over 45,000 years old. Genetic analysis confirmed it to be a horned lark, a species that still exists today in the form of two subspecies in the northern hemisphere. However, this Siberian specimen could potentially be a direct ancestor to the modern bird we know. Imagine how this bird may have played a crucial role in how the species evolved over time. All of this happened during a period of changing climates when parts of Europe and Asia were divided into different ecosystems. Despite the challenges and the extinction of other animals, this bird managed to survive. Unfortunately, Mount Everest is known for a large number of climbers who never made it to the summit and went missing. After all, rescue is hard to come by in these high parts of the world. So to this day, no one has explained what happened to the mysterious Russian expedition of 1952. Before Sir Edmund Hillary reached the top of the mountain, many people believe that Russia sent its own team, led by one Dr. Paul Dachnolian. The 1952 Russian expedition reportedly consisted of a team that traveled to Tibet to begin their ascent. Their goal was to reach the top of Mount Everest. But that was not the only thing they wanted. The Russian expedition wanted to place statues of Lenin and Stalin at the top of the mountain. To this day, it remains a mystery whether this ever happened, as the USSR denied their existence. Here we have a mystery that scientists are currently trying to solve: a gigantic wolf's head discovered in the Siberian permafrost. This head is estimated to be about 40,000 years old and was found above the Arctic Circle by a local man named Pavel. But how the head ended up there is still a puzzle. Dr. Albert Protopopov, a Russian scientist, thinks the head might have been severed by ice. But here's the intriguing part. The soft tissue shows cuts resembling marks of an axe or a sharp knife, suggesting it was intentionally severed by ancient people. However, why would they have done that, especially given the fact that there was no human population in the area at that time? To unravel the mystery, researchers plan to undertake a new To unravel the mystery, researchers plan to undertake a new expedition to search for other parts of the wolf's body near the original discovery. The wolf's head has exposed teeth and an intact brain, and it's larger than the average head length of a contemporary Siberian gray wolf. Some parts of the skull also appear to be more developed than those of modern wolves. To this day, it remains an unsolved mystery. Do you have any ideas? Let me know in the comments. In 2020, deep in the heart of the permafrost, a discovery was unveiled of an ancient puppy with an incredible history. This puppy, preserved since the last ice age, had an unexpected final meal, a piece of one of the last surviving woolly rhinoceroses on Earth. Scientists conducted an animal autopsy on the mummified dog and were astonished when they found an undigested piece of skin with yellow fur in its stomach. Woolly rhinoceroses have been extinct for about 14,000 years, which exactly matches the estimated time of the puppy's demise. It's still a mystery whether the puppy belonged to a human or to wild wolves. If it was a pet, we can imagine it lived alongside ancient people. Yua Wisniewska was training for the World Paragliding Championships when a violent storm hit. In the next hour, she survived lightning, oxygen deprivation, extremely low temperatures, and hailstorms. So you'll probably wonder, how can a human being survive all of this? She says she owed it to her quick reaction. The storm had put her at an altitude higher than that of Mount Everest. She was covered in ice and at a flying height of a jumbo jet. That's 9,947 meters high. She eventually lost consciousness. However, this would have saved her, because as she had become unconscious, it slowed down her heart rate and all of her body functions. When she woke up midair, it was an hour later, and she was floating in the air thanks to her paraglider. Scientists say her chances of survival can be compared to winning 10 lotteries. In 2023, scientists discovered a worm that had been sleeping in the Siberian permafrost for 46,000 years, and then came back to life. If this sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, you're not alone in thinking that. However, this tiny creature belonging to a previously unknown species of nematode astonishingly defied the limitations of its short lifespan. The worm is believed to have entered a dormant state, and it stopped eating and completely shut down its metabolic activity to survive. This particular nematode was found at about 131 feet or 40 meters deep in the permafrost, inside a burrow in the Arctic soil. The most amazing part is that when the worm woke up, it immediately began reproducing. Nematodes have always fascinated scientists, due to their incredible ability to survive long periods of frozen slumber in extremely cold conditions. Some nematodes can even endure dissociated states, like in the driest desert on Earth, the Atacama Desert in Chile. Itigilov is a 200-year-old monk who was found frozen in time when he was in the perfect lotus position. The story of the monk discovered in Mongolia is chilling to say the least. What makes the story even stranger is that some Buddhists claim that he would still be alive. In fact, they think the mummy is in a deep meditation. Scientists, however, have no idea how this body was so well preserved. In 1927, the monk told people to come see him again after 30 years. So, when people did, they found him sitting in the lotus position. Pretty bizarre story, don't you think? Do you think this monk is still alive? The giant beaver, one of the largest rodents ever, was truly gigantic. But did you know that this massive rodent was actually really a tough predator? Contrary to what you might think, it primarily enjoyed small pond plants as its meal, which is quite surprising considering its enormous size. This giant beaver measured about 5.9 feet or 1.8 meters long and weighed around 220 pounds or 220 kilograms. That's roughly the size of a modern black bear. What even made it more special was its incredible long incisors that jutted out of its skull. Researchers studied fossilized bones and teeth found in the Yukon and Ohio dating from 10,000 to 50,000 years ago in 2019. Unfortunately, despite their impressive size, these mega beavers went extinct about 10,000 years ago as the climate became warmer and drier. It's a bit sad, but perhaps they were simply outcompeted by smaller beaver species, continuing their wood-chewing habits. If you were to go back in time to around 24,000 years ago in north-central Iowa, you would have witnessed a vast ice sculpture park, known as the Wisconsin Glacial Episode. The Des Moines Lobe, a massive ice cap, began to grow and dramatically altered the landscape. The ice cap influenced the formation of lakes, rivers, and fertile soil. But what's really cool is that the ice cap also impacted the lives of Ice Age mammals. Think muskoxen, reindeer, and even mammoths. They all migrated north due to changing conditions, and in this landscape we encountered one of the most remarkable creatures, the giant ground sloth. These sloths were impressively large, almost 10 feet or 3 meters in length, and weighing about 2 to 3 tons, which is comparable to a small elephant. But unlike today's sloths, they use their massive claws for various purposes, including foraging for food. What makes the story even cooler is that Thomas Jefferson himself discovered bones of this sloth in 1799 and gave the animal the name Great Claw. The most dangerous part of Mount Everest is a place called Khumbu Icefall. This section lies between Everest Base and below Camp 1, at an altitude of 17,300 to 19,500 feet, or 5,270 meters to 5,943 meters. The Khumbu Icefall is located at the head of the Khumbu Glacier, where melting ice is constantly sliding over it. This makes it an extremely dangerous place, and is not recommended to go there. Would you like to climb Mount Everest someday? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos we've made, click one on the screen or take a look at the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.